Hey everybody, David here, and today I want to talk about Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Episode 1, New World Order. This is going to be my spoiler review, so if you haven't seen the episode yet, please go and check it out first, and then come back, and hopefully we can discuss it if you guys are up for that. For right off the bat, man, this was a really cool episode. Obviously, it's only episode 1, so we're just getting started. But I really liked how this episode was really getting us to know these characters. Probably, we got to know these characters so much more in this one episode than we have in any of the movies combined. Okay, maybe Bucky we knew quite a bit of because of his connection with Steve and his past in World War II and Hydra and all that. But we really got to learn a lot about Sam. And Sam was one that I did feel was like pretty underused in those all the MCU movies that he appeared in. And I liked Sam as a character. I thought Anthony Mackie was great, especially when you watch the gag reels. He clearly is a troublemaker behind the scenes. But I always did feel the character of Sam was an afterthought in the movies, and getting to see his family and his life as a soldier and getting more into his thoughts. That was interesting to me. It really elevated Sam a lot in this one episode, what we got to see of him. The episode starts off with a huge action sequence, which was like fantastic. Once again, following WandaVision's finale, these shows are going to be movie budget quality. And that's what Kevin Feige had stated in interviews in the past, that these Disney Plus shows are not going to be your like average TV shows. They're going to be the quality will be up there with a TV show. From my understanding, they're putting like $25 million per episode. So this is going to be like rivaling Game of Thrones in terms of quality. So you could feel it right there. And we also got to see the return of Batroc the Leaper, who we last saw in Captain America the Winter Soldier, when Captain America, Steve Rogers, went to go save some SHIELD agents that were being held hostage on that boat at the beginning of that movie with Black Widow. So that opening was great. And we see Sam talking to this new character whose name I forgot, but I have the internet here with me. I think his name was Joaquin Torres. That's right. That name sounds familiar. Joaquin Torres is one of the new characters who it looks like Sam is friends with, who was already in the Air Force. And he was talking about these Flag Smashers, and the Flag Smashers are going to be new villains of the show. That apparently, according to him, they are an organization that believes, well, the blip, when the people who disappeared left for those 5 years, they believe that the world was better during that time because the world was more united. And they are people that want the world to go back to that time where there's no flags. That's why they are called the Flag Smashers. And they're terrorizing things to try to get to whatever they're trying to accomplish back to that time again. And yeah, look, it sets up obviously these guys. How are they going to be tied into Zemo? I don't know if they even will. Maybe Zemo's going to be a separate thing. We know he's going to be a main antagonist this season, so it'll be interesting to see how he ties into things, and how Batroc the Leaper will return. Will he return? He did survive, so that attack that Sam was doing on them in the beginning. So I'd be curious to see how all of this is going to come towards the end of the season. So then Sam obviously says he has somewhere to go. Oh, but before that, Torres asks him, so what happened to Cap? Is he living on the moon or something? And Sam tells him, hey, look, don't believe that moon nonsense. You know, those conspiracy theorists, they're nutty. And so he leaves, and Torres asks him, where are you going? The moon thing. He tells him, basically the Avengers thing, because he goes to a museum and he's handing over the shield that Cap gave him. In the beginning, we hear when he's looking at the shield, it looks like he was getting ready for a funeral, right? But apparently not. He's actually getting the shield ready to hand it off to the museum. It looks like at the Captain America museum that we saw in Winter Soldier also. And he hands it over. They say thank you, but Rhodey is there. Rhodey, Don Cheadle returns as Rhodey, and he like asks Sam, like, man, I know Cap gave you that, but I think you should have kept it. He kind of implies that Sam should have picked up the shield and become that symbol of hope that a lot of people need. But Sam feels like he's not worthy, and that he feels that it should be in the museum, and that's where people can come and see it. And I agreed with Rhodey, obviously, that Sam should have been picking up the mantle, but he doesn't feel comfortable with it yet. And obviously, this is the growth that for this season that we're going to have to see him eventually accept, if he will or not. We'll see. So we then go to the next scene, which is a scene with Bucky. We see these students or these young people at this, it looks like a hotel, I guess. And this young Japanese kid, I believe he's Japanese, looks like he's with his friends or whatever, and he's going to his room, and all of a sudden we see the Winter Soldier break in to this place, and he's coming for this kid. He kills a couple of people, because this was during his Hydra time, as we find out that Bucky is remembering or dreaming about this right now, and he's dreaming that he's killing this guy that he killed back when he was working for Hydra. And he wakes up, he goes to this psychiatrist who tries to hear him out, and we see what Bucky's been doing since he came back from the blip, that he is trying to change his life, that the government is pardoning him, and that she said, though, you are going to be pardoned. You're being pardoned, which means he hasn't been pardoned yet. So he has to be very careful. That's what I noticed while watching the episode again, anyways. So he's telling me about this recent thing that he did, that and she gave him 3 rules. You can't hurt anybody. I think that was the second rule. You can't do anything illegal, and you can't tell people you're the Winter Soldier. And he doesn't do any of that, but he's making amends for the wrongs that he did in the past, without hurting people, without doing anything illegal, and without telling people he's the Winter Soldier. Instead, he tells them, "Hi, I'm Bucky Barnes. I used to be the Winter Soldier, but I'm not anymore. So, and I'm making up for the wrongs of my rights, or the rights for my wrongs, whatever." Something like that. And it was a little funny scene. I thought the whole situation with the psychiatrist was really funny. And I liked how tough she was on him. It's like, no. You're going to talk, or I'm going to write that you're not talking. And so that gets like Bucky to talk a little bit more. And she even tells it, look, how many friends do you have? And let me see your phone. She looks in his phone. He only has like less than 10 numbers. And he's been ignoring texts from Sam, which, hopefully he starts getting to those texts. I'm going to guess next week we're going to see that unite, those two unite. And she tells him, look, you can't be alone, because being alone is like the worst hell. And he thinks about this stuff. And so we see him later. He goes to an alleyway, helps an old Japanese man who it looks like he created a bond with, that he's been hanging out with for some time. And he helps him out because he's about to get into a fight, the old man, with this other guy, with one of his neighbors. And Bucky says, "Hey, let's go out for lunch. Come on." And they go out. They go there, and the old guy, reminisces about losing his son, and he notices the girl at the bar, and he goes. And I just want to stop here for a second. It was when the old man was talking about his son. That's when I noticed something in the conversation that will obviously appear later in a few moments. And the first time I saw it, I didn't put the connection together. And if you guys seen it, you know what I'm talking about because I'm getting there. I didn't notice in the conversation that there was a connection between something. And okay, between the kid we saw later on, that we saw earlier on that he killed in the flashback. I didn't know that was the kid at first because I didn't put two and two together. I'm like, oh man. Anyways, so the old man, he kind of sees the girl, and Bucky's like looking at her, and she's looking at him, and he's like, hey, you should ask her out for a date. And Bucky's like hesitant, but the old man is like, hey, he wants to go on a date with you. And Bucky looks a little embarrassed, and come on, man. So the old man hooks the two of them up, which was really sweet. Just like the girl says it was sweet that how Bucky was being friends with the old guy. And so later that night, they go out on a date, and we see Bucky going on a date with his girl. He's an old, timeless romantic, right? He does things the old-fashioned way. So he bought a rose for the girl when he meets her, and she even points out, oh, wow, how old-timey, or something like that. And they play Battleship together. She's asking him questions, but she doesn't know if he's serious or if he's joking, because she asked him his age, and he says, I'm 106, which is about right, more or less. And no, that would be right. Yeah, 106. Yeah, because Bucky, I remember I was watching all the movies, Winter Soldier, and I think, or Civil War. One of the movies said he was born 1918, which would mean 2018 he would be 100 years old, and that's when Infinity War happened. And then we go 5 years, and I believe this show takes place in 2024, which means he would be 6 years old. So Marvel does the math well, man. I I have a whole timeline. I'll share it one day, of all the MCU movies so far, a more detailed timeline. But yeah, it was interesting that she wasn't taking him seriously. I think eventually by the end of the series, we're gonna see her again, and her and Bucky will we'll see where that will end, because he did leave abruptly, right? So it's like maybe she'll be angry at him the next time she sees him. Who knows? But he goes because she says something. Oh, she talks about the old man and how he lost his son, and that when people lose their parents, it's something different, or stuff like that. But when somebody loses their kids, it's like that's like an unstoppable. Who knows what that feels like? And Bucky's like thinking about it, and realizes he has to go, and he goes to the old man's place. And when he gets there, the old man opens up, and he sees the monument there dedicated to his son, and he feels bad, so he gives him money. It looks like he was about to apologize. This is a secret that it looks like he's been keeping in all the time, because that's the son that he murdered in the nightmare, or in the dream sequence that we see earlier. And he just says he doesn't have the guts to say sorry or anything like that. So he says, here, I forgot to pay you lunch. I forgot I was supposed to owe you. So he just gives him money and then leaves. And the old man thinks it's suspicious. And I really do think we'll have an apology by the end of the series. I think that's going to be Bucky's journey in this season, going through that. He's going to get the guts to finally you think he'd have the guts because he's killed so many people, but it's harder to it's harder. Look, I'm not a murderer, but it as a good person, someone who's good, it is hard to apologize for something you did wrong. And especially when it's something that wrong. Yeah, Bucky's probably like, terrified as shit, you know? So we go back to Sam, and we learn that Sam is like losing his boat. His sister's been taking care of things. We learn that his nephews have like grown since he was gone, because Sam was one of the people that was blipped, and now that he's back, they were babies when he was still around, and then when he gone and came back, they are now like 5 years older. So it's crazy to him how he's trying to adjust 6 months later after the blip, and he's trying to help his sister get their parents' boat back. They have a home boat, and I guess the sister and the kids were living in there since who knows how long, and they go to the bank, try to get a loan, but the bank won't give it to them because, hey, look, your financial debts are all over the place here, so no, we can't give you a loan. But the guy was like so happy to meet Sam because he was the Falcon. He's part of the Avengers, and at first the guy didn't recognize him, but as soon as he did, he's like, oh yeah, he just wants to talk about the Avengers and him being the Falcon and stuff like that. He doesn't want to talk about the more serious issues, is that the poor guy is losing his house. And he's like, don't you get paid by the Avengers? No, we do that out of goodwill. And, it kind of sucks. And, I know that, like, when people come back from the army, it's hard for them to get back to a normal life. And usually the government doesn't really help them, from my understanding anyways. So from what I remember hearing. And so I thought it was interesting that, this guy isn't helping them, despite everything that Sam had done for the world with the rest of the Avengers, of course. But I'm sure other Avengers go through similar situations, right? It's like, man, we have to make a living, and we don't get paid for this stuff. It's like, man, it's rough, and we're seeing the rough parts to being an Avenger. It's not all sunshine and rainbows. It's like, no, we still have to pay our income too. We're not all like Tony Stark, where we just get money out of nowhere. I'm sure Steve, when he was working with S.H.I.E.L.D., he was getting paid by S.H.I.E.L.D. I'm sure when Stark was around, maybe he was paying some of the Avengers. Who knows? But this is why Sam is back with the Air Force, and it was interesting learning some of that. So later on, Sam gets home, and his sister comes up to him and says, hey, you got to watch this. And she turns on the news. We see the news. Hopefully I'm not forgetting anything. And the guy that we saw at the museum is like, I think he was a senator, right? He says he's on the news, and he's telling everybody, look, in these kind of times, we're all trying to find ourselves. We all are wanting to look for someone, and we're going to need a symbol to look up to. And he announces that we are bringing Captain America back, or something to that extent. And we see somebody coming out of the building, but they don't show us his face right away. And they announce Captain America. So someone in a Captain America suit comes out. We don't see the face until like the last minute of the episode. We're seeing Sam's reaction to all of this too. His sister is like looking at this, knowing that this is probably bugging her brother like hell, because this shield was supposed to belong to him, but he gave it away. And now the government is giving it to this nobody that we don't even know as an audience. Like, this guy can't be Captain America. We don't even know him. Not that he can't be worthy, but it's like, that's not who Cap gave his blessings to. And we see that it's somebody else entirely. It's not Steve Rogers. It's some Steve Rogers wannabe, some discount Steve Rogers who you could tell looks like he's going to be that kind of... I just have a feeling he's going to be an asshole, isn't he? We'll find out, but right now I am not trusting this guy. That's how the episode ended, with some new guy dressed in a Captain America wannabe outfit being announced as the new Captain America. And I gotta say, man, it was a great way to end the episode. I can't wait to find out what happens next week. Sam and Bucky are definitely gonna have to team up again to kick some or to figure out what's going on. Will we see Rhodey again? That's gonna be a question for me because he was in this episode. Don Cheadle made it sound like he was only going to be in one episode, but I could still see him popping up back like 2 or 3 more times. We'll see. I kind of hope Rhodey comes back just to pop up as War Machine. It would be cool to see Rhodey teaming up with both of these guys, helping them out a little bit. Still keep the focus on Sam and Bucky, but I don't know. I think it would be cool. There's nothing wrong with a little backup. I'm just saying. And he does have a Disney Plus series coming up, so I mean it's not a bad idea to set him up. I have to also add another great thing about this episode, and I was watching another podcast and they were pointing this out. Henry Jackman, who did the scores for Captain America, Winter Soldier, and Civil War, returns to do the score in this series too, which is great because that's why it brought that feeling of those two films. This episode really felt like it was in tone with Winter Soldier and Civil War, which was perfect because those two films, the Captain America trilogy to me is the best, well, not counting the Avengers, is the best solo trilogy out there, I think. It rivals the Dark Knight trilogy for me. It really is a fantastic, a really great trilogy. The original Captain America, a lot of people used to say, that was the weakest one. But I've gone back and rewatched the original Captain America a couple of times throughout the years, and it grows on me more and more as the more I watch it. And I realize it's probably the one that's not... I think it will be a timeless film because of the era that they picked to take in. I don't think it will be like an outdated movie. I think because it feels like a period piece, that's going to help it last longer. And so far, 10 years later, it feels like that movie's going to be 10 years old this year. Thor and Captain America. It feels like it's lasted, but definitely the tone of this show is taking from Winter Soldier and Civil War, which I love. And I think those two are the superior Captain America movies, even more so. Even though I like the first one too, those two I think are definitely the tone for the modern era to take. And I do like the politicalness that this show is trying to tackle. There's a little bit of racial and what do you call it? People that are lower class, high class kind of situation going on here. So other than that, I am very curious on where the Flag Smashers are going. We also know that Sharon Carter and Zemo are going to return. We didn't see them in this episode, but we know they're going to pop up eventually. Will it be the next episode? Will it be episode 3? I'm curious on how they're all going to tie into this. So the characters that we do know are in here, but we haven't seen yet. Plus the characters that we have seen, like Batroc the Leaper, right? We saw him, but he escaped. Is he going to be coming back? Is he going to be tied into all of this somehow? It's going to be interesting. Obviously, this show, I think, is a little bit more simpler than WandaVision. WandaVision, I had so many theories were going, or everybody had theories about that show. This one, you see what's going on, and you're wondering, okay, so how is this going to lead us to the end? I don't think the mystery is that complicated, but it doesn't need to be. And you don't always need to have complicated shows like WandaVision was, right? You just need to have a good show. And that's what the MCU does best, man. They make good movies and they make good shows. Even if they're just average, they do such a good job with it. And that's all anybody can ask. Just give me a good show. And I think that's what Marvel's doing here. And I think it's just gonna, just like WandaVision, how WandaVision to me got better and better with each episode. When Falcon and Winter Soldier to me is going to go the same way. So I can't wait. With that being said, guys, fantastic episode. Leave down your theories and thoughts in the comment section below. And until next time, take care.